better your guard gets, the more dangerous it gets, the harder it becomes to put someone in your guard. Then the game becomes divided into attacking from the guard and putting someone in the guard. You know, just like in the modern day leg lock game, inside Sengaku or honey hole, when you see techniques on Instagram, it's usually about the entry, how you got into honey hole. It's never, not never, but you don't usually see like, you know, the fight in honey hole and how you set it up and then you got the heel hook. It's always about it's about the entry, how you got there. And that's good enough. That's what everyone's looking for. Everyone's looking for the entries. That's the most important thing. Same thing with the back. People are looking for the seatbelt. How did you get the seatbelt? What did you do? What was the transition that led you to get the seatbelt? And that's the gold right there. Not even, oh, well, he's got the seatbelt, but he doesn't have his leg hooks in. If you need that too, you need to figure that out on your own. The hardest part was to get the seatbelt. The hardest part of Inside Sengaku is getting there. So the guard is the same thing. You know, the more dangerous your guard is, the more your opponent is going to try to avoid even being in that situation to begin with. So it's a whole different sport, the art of putting someone in the guard. You might roll with a high level guy like some of my guys like Marvin here or Gio. I'm rolling with them. Sometimes I can't even put them in rubber guard. I didn't have, none of my setups to put them in the guard even worked. So, you know, just like all guards, rubber guard doesn't work 100% of the time. No guards do. Like if you put all or counted all the times someone was put in full guard in the UFC. Oh, put them all together. From UFC 1 to whatever it is, 2050 or whatever it is now. You put in all the time and then you factored in how many times or what percentage of the times did that full guard lead to a submission or even a sweep. Man, it's really, really low. I mean, off the top of my head, I'm gonna say 5%, and I think that's being generous. So no guard works all the time. No guard works 70% of the time at the high level with equally skilled opponents, all right? So we're looking for something that works in the 20% range, 30% range, you know? I got some guys, you know, like Marvin here, if he gets someone in his full guard, I would say 40% of the time they're gonna get tapped. 60% they pull out, you know, but 40%, Marvin's rubber guard is strong enough to finish anybody at his weight. His weight, his division, I'd say 40, even if it was 20%, that's still high, even if 20% was the real number. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but I don't really think so. Every time I see him in the guard, I'm gonna say 35%, 40% of the time, they're gonna tap. For me, when I put someone in full guard or in rubber guard, I feel it's the same too. I feel 40%, I'm gonna sweep you or finish you. 60%, maybe half the time you pull out, you slip out, no big deal. You know, the problem with new techniques is they're highly critiqued. Like, you know, you'd see someone pull out of a rubber guard, like they posture up and they pull out, and then people just jump on it and say, oh, look, it doesn't work. Look, dudes are pulling out. I tried rubber guard 4 times and I pulled out. It's not the way to look at it. There's enough evidence and data out there that proves rubber guard is legit. It's no longer a myth. Just go to Instagram's at rubber guard assassins. Just look at all that. Look, you telling me that it doesn't work? It's endless. There's so much evidence that it's overwhelming. So once you get past, does it work? Am I wasting my time? Maybe it doesn't work. Does it work? This guy says it doesn't work. You know, you could take, even today, you could take 30 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. You could take 30 of them and ask them if rubber guard is legit. And they'll say no. All of them. Maybe one will say yes. So that right there proves consensus is not science, because that's not true. It's not true. And most black belts that say rubber guard isn't legit, they just don't know how to play it. They're just no good at it. And if it was commonly known as a legit dangerous way to play guard and they don't know how to play it, they're incomplete, and now they got to master it. So there's a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts out there hoping it's not legitimate, hoping they don't have to learn it. They don't want to have a big piece of the jiu-jitsu game that they don't know anything about. They don't want that, so they'll tell their students that, oh no, it's not legit. People pull out of it all the time. Meanwhile, if you shot a double leg on someone 10 times and they sprawled on you and stuffed it every time, you would never question the double leg. You would never say, double legs don't work. I tried to take him down 10 times and it didn't work. He just kept sprawling. What if has a guy ever said, oh, double legs don't work, all you do is just sprawl and just put your hip into them? No one says that. But people still say that about rubber guard. No one says that about leg locks. Like, oh, look, he gets me in the leg locks, I pull out. Honey hole doesn't work. No, people are going to pull out of leg locks all the time. Doesn't mean they're illegitimate. Same thing with rubber guard. Once you get past it, once you fully trust it and have faith in it, then you could actually learn it and master it and start implementing it into your game. And again, with the idea that it's not going to work 100% of the time. You can't just have rubber guard. I teach my students that you need a half guard game. You need leg locks. Sometimes you use your leg lock threats to open up rubber guard. That's what Marvin does. He's attacking legs all the time. People counter it, and then they end up in a full guard situation. So you use leg locks to set up your rubber guard. You can use leg locks to set up a lockdown. Some guys, very hard to do anything in rubber guard. Their posture's just way too good. Those guys, that's why you need other game. You're like, I got to electric chair this guy. I got to put him in dogfight. I got to sweep him in another way. Maybe we go arm drag on this guy, or something else. Nothing is going to work all the time. If all you had was a lockdown game, well, you're going to hit a brick wall eventually because that's just one game. You need multiple games. For me personally, my multiple games, rubber guard, obviously, the lockdown game, quarter guard game, prison guard, which is huge, another piece of the puzzle, another clinching guard style that leads to rubber guard as well. You got to combo 3 or 4 styles, and I'm not known as a heel hooker, but I will attack. I get into Z-locks, I'll attack for the leg lock or as a setup to end up in a lockdown or in a rubber guard situation, all right? So that being said, now we're gonna get in, now that we went through the basic path of the rubber guard, very important because the stuff that the modern day rubber guard game, a lot more complex, a lot more options. But when all these new options and submissions and new paths fail, a lot of the times it ends up in an omoplata battle. So that's why that'll always remain very important in the rubber guard game, the omoplata battle. And in the omoplata battle, there's submissions and then there's sweeps. So always remember the rubber guard, a big part of rubber guard is sweeping. And a big part of sweeping is passing. So you want the sweep and the pass. So if you're playing rubber guard, you set it up and you end up in side control, that's a huge win. That's, obviously submissions are better, but sweeping with a pass is better than someone pulling out of your guard and you're still on your back and now you got to start everything over. Okay, so you're always looking for the top position in when playing rubber guard. Now, over the years, the rubber guard has evolved so much that there's pieces of the rubber guard that I don't even play. Because like Ben Eddy, he's a black belt, a 10th planet black belt, who plays a style of rubber guard that you gotta learn from him, because I don't play it. He's got his own style. He has a move called the Hindulo-tine, which is basically a rubber guard Marcellitine, guillotine. I never play that. You need to really want that to put that in your game. It's highly effective. He's pulled it off at EBI. He pulled it off EBI once. He pulled it off in the same tournament twice. He did it in combat jiu-jitsu, his Hindulo-tine. It's legit, but it's a style that I personally don't play. I just don't. You got to be ultra flexible for that. I'm just pretty flexible. I'm not ultra flexible, but it's legit. Look into Ben Eddy. He's one of the best guard players ever. And then, Richie Boogeyman Martinez, his rubber guard, he's very carny heavy, which I'll get into the carny options. I used to play a lot of carny early days, old school OG Bomb Squad days. I moved away from it. It's still legit, but I moved in. I'm always looking for new ways and new paths and growing new branches in the rubber guard. And I kind of moved past that, and I'm going to show you what my go-to stuff is today. And then you got Marvin, which his rubber guard is mainly Dead Orchards, which is something that Elvis Sinisic in the UFC got Jeremy Horn in. The basic idea behind triangles is you got caught in full guard with one arm in and one arm out. He sets you up. Somehow you got caught with one arm in, one arm out. Defensively, you want to get both arms back in or both arms back out. That's the basic law of jiu-jitsu. It'll never change. Dead Orchards are triangles with both arms in. You got to have long legs rather, to pull them out. The longer the legs, the better. Elvis Sinisic has long legs, and he put Jeremy Horn in a Dead Orchard. Back then, it wasn't called Dead Orchard, and back then, no one even looked at it as a legitimate move. Everyone thought, including myself, that it was just a freak thing. Like, look, he triangled his legs, but Jeremy Horn's both arms were in. Like, how does that happen? Oh, he has really long legs. Everyone thought it was like a freak accident. That's not how you do triangles, but it worked, And he ended up arm barring him. He triangled his legs, both arms were in. Well, since then, two of my students, Nathan Orchard and Brian Debs, started doing it in tournaments, in grappling tournaments. And Nathan Orchard was just killing with it. So I started calling it a Dead Orchard, because of Nathan Orchard. And, could have called it the Barn Cat, because that's Brian Debs' nickname. But it's called Dead Orchard. The name stuck. As ridiculous as it sounds, it stuck. That's probably the most popular submission in rubber guard, is the Dead Orchard. Now I do Dead Orchards too, but I got to do a lot of extra steps and a lot of extra work, manual labor, because my legs aren't that long. If you have long legs, you don't have to do a lot of extra work most of the time with guys your size. But as your opponent gets bigger and the size difference increases between you and your opponent, then those long legs aren't long enough at a certain point. And then even long-legged guys will have to do all the extra work to get to a Dead Orchard, all right? So there's two basic styles of rubber guard. There's full rubber guard, which means you're in full guard and you attack with rubber guard positions and paths and options. And then there's 3/4 rubber guard. Very important to know the difference between the two. Because one is full guard rubber guard, you have your opponent in full guard and you're attacking. And the other one, you're never in full guard. Full guard hasn't even happened. You're in 3/4 rubber guard. And that's a big difference. And in the 3/4 rubber guard, the attacks are specific. You can't do Dead Orchards from 3/4 rubber guard, because Dead Orchards, you need to be in full guard. And by Dead Orchard, Marvin, this is what it is. This is what Marvin does. He's here, he's setting it up. He goes to mission control. Regardless of what rubber guard style you're playing, it all starts with mission control. You got to fire to mission control. So he sets it up here. He might go gag reflex or whatever. He wants the elbows kind of in. I bring my elbows in, and then he triangles his legs, and then he's gonna armbar. Unfortunately, my legs aren't that long where I can just go up and just do that right away. I got to do a lot of other stuff. But before we get to that, we're gonna get into 3/4 rubber guard, which means my right leg is stuck between his legs, but since my right knee is out and not between his legs here, I can't play any rubber guard like this with my knee stuck. So my knee's out, I can play a lot of rubber guard. Even though my foot's caught and I'm not in full guard, I can do a lot of stuff. I can bring this leg over here, and this is a go-go clinch. If I could triangle my legs here, boom, that's a Frodo Plata. Frodo Plata. Boom, right there. That's not even full guard. So in three-quarter guard, not only, we could do go-go platas here. We can do, this is called Hazlitt right there. This is a Hazlitt. No full guard at all, but extremely high level, high percentage attacks. And if all the attacks in three-quarter, this is three-quarter rubber guard, not a full guard, if they fail, a lot of times we end up right here. Back to the basic main, the basic path of the rubber guard, all right? So, and we're gonna start from this position we call the cocoon, right? We have an overhook here and an underhook here, all right? This is a very hard position to get your opponent in. This is like halfway through the path. A lot of stuff had to happen for me to be sitting up here with this overhook and this underhook. And we're gonna get into how we got here after we go through all the submissions. Then we're gonna work our way back. But we're gonna start here halfway through in the cocoon. This is called the cocoon. I'm not in full guard yet. I got my butterflies in. I got an overhook here and an underhook here. However you get to this position, from whatever happened for you to get here, and I'll explain and I'll go over basic ways, the most important ways actually, to get here. You have to know what to do once you get here. So sometimes when I teach seminars, this is all I teach. This is the first step here. Cocoon, right here, which is halfway through there's a lot of stuff that has to happen to get here. And then the first move from here, it's gotta be in your blood, is firing to this position here, which is New York, but it's not New York. It's called Jersey, because New York would be this position in full guard, all right? But since I'm in three-quarter guard, it's not New York, so we call it Jersey, all right? Because we couldn't think of anything else. All right, so from that position, we back up a little bit, we get right into Jersey. We got this overhook, and we got this underhook. And the overhook means that once I get into rubber guard, I don't have to zombie because his hand is already on the mat, right? If I was here, I'd have to get his hand to the mat. And that may or may not work, depending on how tight he is. But since I have the overhook, if I get into a rubber guard situation, his hand's already on the mat. So this is like I already zombied his arm, the overhook, all right? So the most important move from here, you want to develop rubber guard, my suggestion is to develop three-quarter rubber guard, which is what we're going to do now. Jeremiah Vance, one of the best rubber guard players on the planet, he attacks just like this, three-quarter rubber guard, not full rubber guard. When he plays full rubber guard, he goes dead orchards, but most of his game is from three-quarter rubber guard. And his flexibility is not that great. And three-quarter rubber guard is perfect for guys that don't have the greatest flexibility. You don't need that. When you're playing rubber guard from full guard, more flexibility is needed. You play rubber guard, three-quarter rubber guard, you don't need as much. So this is the most important thing. When I go to seminars and when we're on F day, this is the drill we do. This is how you get good. You have to start from this position, overhook, underhook, and then fire by pulling out the underhook, pulling them to your side and catching this here and squeezing your legs together. If I get to this position and I fired and I completed the fire, but my right leg is loose here, he's simply just gonna pass and he's gone. So in your blood, when you're programming this important drill, you have to program the squeezing of your legs so that so you don't just waste your time. You fire to Jersey, and your right leg is loose, this is a bad program. That's a bad program. You didn't train right. And it's an easy pass. So when you do this, make sure, see, when I fire, I'm gonna fall to my side, and this overhook's gonna bring a fall to my side. I remove the underhook and catch this here. And I'm squeezing my knees together. He cannot pass the guard here. My legs are squeezing together. My knee is squeezing into his ribs. Huge, one of the most important details. You don't want to forget that. Loose leg means he passes. All right, so the next step here is once I catch this leg, don't remove the underhook or the overhook until this is caught. Then, and only then, remove it and give him a little squeeze, just to ensure that you're programming the squeeze. And now the next step from here, that was a fire. The next step is the flip. All right, so we want to grab our foot here or our ankle. My right arm doesn't move, and then I flip this over and it lands, the ankle lands on my forearm. Boom, and I'm still holding on the neck here. All right, and then if I could reach around my knee here to clinch here, that's huge. This is the go-go clinch. If you can't reach here, then you can go over and clinch like this too. This is the go-go clinch. All right, so that becomes those first two steps. That's a fire and a flip to the go-go clinch. Super important. You cannot develop high-level rubber guard unless you do that drill constantly. Not only do we do that constantly, but it's all over the warm-ups as well. At the, we end with a fire and a flip, just so you're just doing it all the time. You get to the flip, he's in trouble. And we start live drills in the go-go clinch. We'll do a prearranged, we'll start in cocoon, fire and flip, and then in the from the go-go clinch all together, we go live. And then we get time developing the go-go clinch, the options from the go-go clinch, and there's a bunch. We're gonna go through them. It's all in the warm-ups, it's all in the live drills. It's over and over and over. And you put enough time into what I'm showing you right now from this point on, you will get closer and closer to what Jeremiah Vance can do. And all you gotta do is just go to Jeremiah Vance 10 on Instagram, just look at all the stuff he's doing in competition, IBJJF. The way you stop Jeremiah is do not get in his guard. And some guys can do that. Some guys can avoid, and he doesn't win every match. The guys that he couldn't capture in the cocoon, they can win, but, fortunately he's got other ways to win too. He's very good at leg locks and all that. But as far as rubber guard goes, the way you develop it is exactly what I'm showing you right now. Start from the cocoon, fire and flip, you're in the go-go clinch, and then go live, all right? So now from the go-go clinch, what are our options? We're here, we fire, boom. Pull out the overhook, we flip, bam. We could finish him here. We could just choke and finish him here. It's all about how my right arm is aligned with his neck. If he's shrugging, I could tell right now, I'm over his jaw and his cheekbone. I'm not in a good spot. But if I was under his neck here, right here, and I'm squeezing, man, I could just tap him right here. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. There's options from here. One option is getting to the Frodo Plata. That means I'm gonna pull out this leg with this foot. I'm gonna try to stay under his foot. So I'm gonna hook that up, triangle my legs, and keep my right foot hidden behind his armpit. Because if he can pin that down, man, he has life here. He's gonna try to get to the omoplata position. He doesn't want me here. He doesn't want me here. All right, so, but if I was able to triangle my legs and then hide my foot behind his armpit, he can't grab my foot now. He can't grab it, boom. And then right here, you squeeze. If this is called the Frodo Plata. If this isn't lined up right and you're squeezing, you're like, man, this ain't gonna work. As long as my right foot is still under his armpit, I can release this clinch and attack that wrist here. So now I'm gonna pull this wrist, open this leg up, keep him down with that. Because if I squeeze my legs together here, he can flip over and create a scramble. So it's kind of like, you know, in leg lock positions, like you want your leg lock open here if I had him in honey hole. So this leg is holding him down, it's going that way. My right foot's still behind his armpit and I'm pulling on his wrist. So there's no way he's gonna get his right arm out. And the tap is right here. This one's called the Hazlett. That's a giant killer right there. That one's the most, right there at the top, always in the conversation with the most powerful rubber guard finish there is. You put a guy, if I triangle my legs and my foot is under your armpit, it's almost over. Even if I was in the mount here, same thing. If he was on his back, and we're gonna get to this too, because rubber guard is the same basically in the mount, because the mount is an upside down guard. It's the same thing, it's just upside down. So most rubber guard techniques work in the mount as well, and they're even more powerful in the mount. Rubber guard is way more effective in the mount than it is on, so I'm always trying to, when we're gonna get into it, getting into rubber guard mounted rubber guard, it's a wrap for you. Especially, this is the same thing, if I had Hazlett from the mount here, and we're here, and I had my legs figure forward, and I'm again, under his armpit here, it's over. That's just, the hardest part from here is trying to figure out which submission I want to use on him. There's so many right here. He's done, there's no way he's gonna escape. One of the best moves you could do here is the monoplata, which came from Marcelo Garcia. In this position, I'm just gonna simply reach over with my right hand, grab his elbow, and lift his elbow, pull his elbow, and at the same time, raising my left knee. So I'm right here, boom. That's a move that Marcelo Garcia started doing in the mid-2000s that I doubted. It was one of those moves from Marcelo that I'm like, I don't know, Marcelo. You know, most of the time I just accept what he says, you know, gospel truth. But this one, the monoplata, I wasn't sure about it. It didn't look right to me. I'm like, it looks low percentage. But I kept teaching it anyways. I added it to the system. There's a path. I'm gonna go through all the submissions lined up, and that one's right there at the end. And I kept teaching it over and over. And then finally, just like all moves, as soon as you do them enough, as soon as you hit that magic number and the reps, boom, it just started feeling really good. I'm like, oh my God, this might be the best move from the mounted go-go's and mounted rubber guard. So that one's huge. And I'll show you how it lines up. You know, it got a whole system they're all lined up, all the submissions, boom. And your opponent's got to survive it. They generally don't survive all of them, but that one's at the end, could be in the beginning. It could be the #1 option. I just have it at the end of my run of submissions. So back to fire and the flip. We're gonna break this down into 2 basic paths in 3/4 rubber guard. It's the go-go clinch path and then the go-go plata path, all right? So, before we start with that, let me start in this position here. Go back. This position here, where I'm grabbing my toes like a mounted go-go, and I have this arm under control. I call this position 2 things. And the reason why I call it 2 things is because as long as you're focused on 2 things, he's pretty much toast. And the 2 things you need to focus on is holding on to this foot, and usually in this position, my foot's caught between his legs, and attacking this hand here. You gotta have both these things, this thing and this thing. If you don't have that thing, you only have one thing, this hand's gonna cause too much trouble. It's gonna come on the inside and push this out. And if you don't have this arm under control, he can roll you back to your back, which he's still not out of the woods yet, but right here, he's done. So in this position, I'm holding onto this foot, my leg is caught, I want it out, so I'm keeping this hand out. There's no way he could roll on top of me as long as I have control of this hand here. There's no way he can roll on top of me. If I don't have control of it, then he can get on top of me. But now he can't. If he peels this off using his legs or whatever, we just simply wait for it again. He peels it off again, it's over here. We go to it again. And what we're doing is we're keeping him under control here, keeping this hand busy at all times until I can pull this leg out. Once I pull that leg out, then the goal is to figure 4 my legs and keep my foot under his armpit, just like a mounted Haisling. If I can get to this position, he is toast, all right? And all this comes from rubber guard, and it also can come from just being in the mount. You can make this happen from the mount, but I usually make it happen from rubber guard, off a sweep. So we're getting ahead. This is the end. So at the end here, once we get to this position, what I like to do is I just put it all in a chain of submissions here. Once we're here, I'm gonna attack this wrist here, and like a tug of war, I'm pulling on his wrist here, and then I'm stomping on this ankle here, and I'm pulling just like that. That's called the straight jacket, all right? Sean Bollinger made that one up. I love this one because it looks so crazy. It looks like you're big brothering your opponent here. It looks like, you know, he hid the remote, and where's the remote? You know what I mean? So I like that one. If for some reason this doesn't work, his shoulder's just crazy flexible, then the next move is the special K, which I'm gonna wrap right above the elbow. You need some flexibility, and then the arm bar comes up here. Very hard to escape that one. If that doesn't work, then the final one is the monoplata, Marcelo Garcia's creation here. Once we're here, I'm just gonna grab this elbow, and as I lift up, and as I pull on it, my left knee is also being elevated right here, boom. Very hard to stop that. That one's probably the best one, right? But this one looks the best right here. I love this one. Straight jacket, special K, monoplata. That's how I chain them up. Very rare that they survive all 3. And that's only if I could pull out my right leg. A lot of times I'm in 2 things and my leg is caught, and he knows if I pull that leg out, it's over. He's not gonna survive. It's just not gonna happen. All right, so he'll focus on that and not let me get my leg out, but I still have 2 things here. If I can't get it out, eventually I gotta make a move. All right, so for the move from here, one of the best moves is, as soon as I let go of this, that means he has a free hand, so I gotta make this move quick. I go right to a mounted go-go and push right here. That's one option, it's the mounted go-go, pulling on these toes here and pushing on the heel, right here. Or simply just go ball and socket here and pull his head over my shin. All right? But if I can pull this leg out, boom, down here. Now he's done. Bam, bam, bam. This is rubber guard, mounted rubber guard. How did we get there? We're gonna back up. I'm gonna show you. So the 2 main paths, and there's a lot of different ways you can go, but I like to keep it simple. I mean, I guess, what is that, an oxymoron? Rubber guard is simple. What is that? Is that something like that? Ironic. But there's gonna be 2 major paths from Cocoon here, and the fire and the flip. It's gonna be all fire and the flip here. All right, two positions or 2 moves that eventually need to be molded and blended into one move. But first, you make it 2 moves. And again, here's the fire, boom, and then here's the flip, boom. Ankle on my forearm, I'm like this. Not like, it doesn't look like this or like that, it's like this, all right? So we're here, all right? So sometimes we can tap them just with the go-go clinch. Sometimes we pull this leg out. Look at how I underhook that arm, and now we're in the Frodo plata. S grip. Sometimes you could just go ball and socket here. Gable grip if you have long arms. We tap him here. If he doesn't tap, the next move is to release the clinch and attack the wrist. Hazlet, very hard to escape that one. This one right here is very hard to escape. And we can get into Hazlets too. Let's say if we're in an omoplata position, now we're back to the basic path, the original path, and I'm parallel with it. As long as we're parallel and we got the angle, I can't gogoplata him, I can't Hazlet him, can't do any of that. But if I push off on his hip here and I hook this foot in and I aim for his chest and slide into the armpit, if I could feel that armpit, now pushing here puts me back in a perpendicular position. And now we're back to the Hazlet. So if you saw a picture of that Hazlet, you're like, where did it come from? Did it come from a failed Frodoplata? Or did it come from being in the omoplata position, pushing off on the hips and going back into it? We don't know. There's two different ways to get into it. And if we were mounted, if I mounted him, that would be monoplata, basically. It's a little bit different, just a little bit because we're mounted, but it's basically the same thing. Legs are in the same spot. Super hard. Oh, I can't tell you how important that is. So now, here's a different scenario. Overhook, underhook, fire, pull out the overhook, flip. All right, let's say we triangle the legs, but a triangle is over his shoulder. See that? Now I can't Hazlet. And I could still try to tap him with the go-go clinch here or the Frodoplata, but this foot is not under his armpit. All right, from here, we can release the grip, grab the toes here, and then switch it off here. And then we have a Kimura here. That one's called death from below, right? Different scenario here. All right, my foot is on top of the shoulder as opposed here. Now this is different. Now we're back to Hazlet. Hazlet, this is on top, boom, boom, death from below. Or you could just grab his head, bam. That's an option as well. All right, so, and if all that fails, you end up in an omoplata position. We already went over that. The DA sweep, the unwinder when the counter to the duck under, just the basic omoplata finish with the arm trap, with the arm out. We already did all that. So when this fails, you'll find yourself in an omoplata position. We already went over that. Now, that's the fire and flipping into a go-go clinch. You can fire and flip into a gogoplata. Has nothing to do with a go-go clinch. Different movements, different options. And this is the option that leads to two things, which is the mounted go-go. So, the mounted go-go position. So now, the fire is the same. Boom, the fire is the same here. But now the flip is gonna be different because instead of my right arm staying in the same spot and me landing right here, my right arm is gonna grab the back of his elbow here as I flip. So now we're in a different position here. I flipped him. The reason why I'm holding his elbow here, because if I let go of his elbow, he gets parallel with me, and now we're fighting omoplata again. And remember, that's the backup plan. I'm not trying to get there initially. All right, we're trying to finish him here. I'm trying to put him in two things. So when I flip, grabbing his elbow is huge. It keeps him from turning the angle and change the angle, and he's blowing the whole plan. All right, so that flip is different. The fires are the same. The flips are different. So we go fire, pull out the overhook, everything's the same until we go here. All right? And then from here, the next move is to wrap his head, not around the knee. This one we wrap the head, grab the toes. And when I grab the toes, then and only then do I let go of the elbow. So now he still can't turn. If I let go of the elbow and I don't have the toes, again, he goes back into the omoplata position. We lose the angle. So we have this, the flip is different here, but now once we grab this, now I can let go of the elbow and I get up on my elbow and I do a bicep curl here. I want no space between his head and my chest. I don't want to be here. Because if I'm here, he's going to escape his arm just like that. Happens every time. That's the number one reason gogoplatas fail, is because you left too much space and he got his arm out. Now it's over. Now you're going to start all over. So when I get up, this is called a go-go launch. Once I get up on my elbow and I have I'm on my elbow here and there's no space between his head and my pec right here, then we have two options here. I'm not trying to finish him from here. I want to use this go-go launch to launch into a sweep right here, boom, and then we're in two things here. We're in two things here. That's the go-go toss. Go-go launch to go-go toss. Now, just like tossing and swimming to spider web, two different ways, two opposite ways getting to the same position. Same thing here. Now, if I try to toss him, I try to take him to my left, but he bases, then I get up on my knee, get my ass in the air, and we go the other way. Boom, same thing. Two things. We end up in the same spot. We just went the opposite way. Very important. See, now we got the two things. I already went over the submissions all lined up the exact same way. We end up in two things. Most of the time, your right foot is caught between his legs. You keep him in two things, keeps him flat on his back. If you focus on those two things, if you're not focused on those two things, you're gonna lose the position or give him hope. You gotta know what's going on. The two things keeps him in position until you're ready to finish him. That's everything. That's why it's called two things. That's why I gave it a dumb name, because it's so important to focus on those two things. Get everything else out of your mind. You focus on the two things, it's over. No one escapes from that shit. Like one guy escaped ever from me. That's over. It's like having someone in, back control with a body triangle and you already have the rear naked choking. That's a wrap. That's how deep that is. All right, so we're not just like back with just a basic arm bar with locking the shoulder and tossing him to spider web. Same thing. We didn't try to finish the arm bar from the guard. We wanted him on his back first. That raises the finishing rate tremendously. Same thing here. Gogoplata from the bottom still works. But from the top, I mean, it's almost done. All right, so with those two basic paths, we had fire and flip into go-go clinch, and then we went into Frodo Plata, then we went to Hazlet, and then we went to omoplata. Either you're gonna finish them with the omoplata, or you're gonna control that sweep and get on top of them. The other path, fire and a flip, but the flip, we flip into a go-go plata. All right, so one more time. The second one, fire. Now look at this flip. Look at that, bam, we're right here. Next step, grab the toes. Once you could use your bottom leg to stretch them out too. Keep them wide. Once I have the toes, I get up on my elbow, do a bicep curl, holding this together. I'm either going to go toss to two things, or get up on my knee, ass in the air, go roll into two things. All right, sometimes we use, we're in the go-go launch here. Sometimes we use a go-go roll attempt to set up a go-go toss. Like I get up on my knees and he doesn't want to roll, so then we go boom. That's super common. That's a great setup. If I can't pull my leg out, remember we could just pull the head or go-go plata from the bottom or from the top. If we pull our leg out, look how I figure four the legs. I'm gonna push his arm up, figure four the legs, and then we go 1, 2, 3. If we lose the arm here, if we're here and we lose the arm and he gets out, deep hook it, and we're in spider web now. We lose that arm, deep hook it, spiderweb. It connects. It all connects. In regards to the fire and flip from 3/4 rubber guard, eventually you want to take those 2 steps and make it 1 step. All right, 1 step, because the stronger posture your opponent has, the harder it is to do anything from the guard. Whether you're playing traditional full guard or any kind of rubber guard ever, or any kind of full guard rather, imaginable. If the guy has posture, posture kills all guards. Stacking kills all guards, not just rubber guard. A good smash stack kills all full guard styles. All right, so no guard is immune to high-level stacking or high-level posturing. All right, we're just trying to develop a guard that's the highest percentage. Whether the highest percentage in the guard can realistically only be 20, 30%, that's what we're reaching for. We're not reaching for 100%. That's impossible. No technique is 100%. No mount is 100%. No back control is 100%. All right, so we're just trying to raise, no leg locks 100%. So, and right now, no gi, MMA, combat jiu-jitsu, there's most traditional full guard is still too low in my opinion, and can be dramatically improved if you want to dive in. And if you got some other kind of guard, you know, there's a Williams guard, which is sort of like rubber guard. It's cousin through marriage. It's kind of related. That's effective too. To me, Williams guard is more effective than traditional full guard. That's for sure. If I had a choice to play traditional full guard and Williams guard, I would definitely play Williams guard. It's addressing some of the problems that we see in full guard. And the reason why there is such low percentage full guard to this day is because no one's really addressing, there ain't that many people addressing no-gi, full guard, punches are involved, you know. And so in 3/4 guard, against the hardest, this is very important, blending the fire and the flip into one movement. And it's called, this movement's called flying kung fu. And all it is, or actually there's flying kung fu, and just like there was 2 versions of the fire and the flip, there was a fire and a flip to go-go clinch, and there was a fire and a flip to a go-go plata and to go-go launch. Same thing when you're combining both. Either we're gonna fire and flip to a go-go clinch, one move into a go-go clinch, a flying go-go clinch. That's what this is. Flying go-go clinch and a flying kung fu. These are 2 of the hardest rubber guard moves to master, but 2 of the most, probably the most important, because this is what you do against guys that have incredible posture. You don't have time to break their posture down, mission control, zombie, clear the neck. These guys are just too big. You know, every technique has a weight limit. You know, you can't, if you're really good at Kimuras, you're not gonna Kimura a guy that has 50 pounds on you and he's a black belt. How are you gonna Kimura him? You might Kimura grip him to the back, that's different. But as far as, you know, arm and guillotine, another thing, you ain't gonna, if you're really good at arm and guillotines, it ain't gonna work on a guy that has 40 pounds on you. Every move has a weight limit. And, you know, obviously the rear naked choke, that's probably the best overall move. Once it's set in, doesn't matter how big the guy is generally. But all other moves, you know, straight ankle lock, not gonna work on a black belt that has 50 pounds and it's gonna be very hard, very, very hard. Straight ankle lock, you know, every move has a weight limit, including the rubber guard. So for those guys that just too big, too much posture, you gotta combine the fire and the flip. And the first one would be flying go-go clinch. So from here, all in one move, I'm gonna pull this off, fall to the side, and I'm gonna grab this, and my leg's gonna land in front of his face. Right, so instead of fire, then flip, we're gonna go all at once here, boom, right here. in a flash. And then from here, it's the same path. We're gonna try to tap him with the go-go clinch. If that doesn't work, we go Frodo Plata, and then we release the grip. We go Hazlet. If he posts on his left leg, and if I could hook his leg, this is a Haze leg. Instead of a Hazelet, Haze leg. So instead of hooking, there's a good spot, hooking the armpit, and then you could also hook that. If I feel that leg, I'm gonna let go of the wrist, and now we're right here. So if I'm hooking his armpit, I'm attacking his wrist. If I'm hooking his leg, I'm attacking his ankle here. He's in bad shape here. All right, so that comes off the flying go-go clinch. That eventually has to be mastered, and that needs some flexibility. Until then, you get the fire and the flip. All right, so now, the next one's the flying kung fu. So instead of firing and grabbing his neck and my left leg landing on my right arm, now just like going fire and flip to go-go clinch, this arm pulls out and immediately grabs and pulls on his tricep. So we're gonna flying kung fu, we're gonna go boom, we're gonna be right here all at once. So then the next step would be to grab the toes. As soon as I grab the toes, that means I can get up on my elbow, go-go launch, go-go toss, and we're in two things situation. All right, because we blended the fire and the flip. Flying kung fu, flying go-go clinch. That is the ultimate goal to master. All right, because that's how you make rubber guard work on guys that have incredible posture, way stronger than you. They got, they're greasy, hard to control. You gotta go flying kung fu and flying go-go clinch. Super important.